by design or by default, or why goals matter. I have mentioned throughout this program that as human species, we have evolved to survive, to procreate, to search for food, for partners, and we have also evolved to save energy. For more than 98% of our history, we didn't have food which was 10 feet away. We had to run, hunt, and put a lot of energy into getting food, into getting shelter, into surviving. This is how our brain evolved to optimize energy and to save energy as much as possible. Is this suitable for today's world? Absolutely not. We need to learn new skills. And some of these new skills require extra energy, like living by design. Living by default means that you never think about where you're going, what you want to achieve, who you are. You never explore the world within you and outside of you, and you kind of live like a zombie. But if you want to live by design, if you want to set the direction in which you're going and which is aligned with your true self, this requires energy. And the process of goal setting and what we're doing here is learning how to live by design and, of course, creating this by design life. Research shows that when you have a written goal, you have 40% more chances of taking action. When you have a goal and a plan for your goal, this makes your chances of achieving your goal twice as much. Let's review what we've done so far. We have the ideal me, we have the ideal career, and we have the career assessment. Now we're going to set your career goal. Before we do so, I quickly want to check if you're using the 4 success principles: the environment, the starting protocol, the open mind, and the schedule and track. By the way, you're going to use the absolute same principles to achieve your career goal. What is your visualization, product, and ritual? Remember, after the ideal me and the ideal career, we spoke briefly about the fact that it would be so useful if you had a product out of this visualization so that you can connect to it, and also a small ritual that you do every day or every other day or a few times a week. And finally, which assessment did you take and what is the result of it? I suggest you spend some time to make sure that you have checked those boxes, because those are not just boxes, those are stepping stones towards your goal. Remember the domino effect. We have a vision. This is your dream life. This is what you truly want to experience in this world, what you want to give and receive. Once your goal is aligned with your vision, the purpose of this goal is to get you closer to your vision. Remember that at a certain point I mentioned, especially when you're in the beginning of your career, there is a big gap between where you are and where you want to be. Why? Well, first of all, because you don't have a lot of skills, you don't have a lot of resources, unless you have inherited a lot of money. You don't have a lot of connections. So every time you're at the beginning of your career, there is a slightly bigger gap between where you are and where you want to be. And in order to bridge that gap, you need to find the goal which will catapult you, your linchpin goal. What does that mean? This is the goal that brings you fastest and closest to your dream. And of course, you need to have a system, a day-to-day actions that you're doing in order to achieve that goal. What is a linchpin goal? I absolutely love the idea of a linchpin goal. A linchpin goal is the key connection between your current reality and your ideal career. So when you're thinking of a goal, you need to know exactly where you want to be. Of course, you know where you are right now, and you need to identify that one achievement, one change, or one accomplishment that will bring you closest or will actually catapult you to your dream. Here is an example of a linchpin goal. You might remember the case of the digital marketing guy who wanted to be a digital. Here is an example of a linchpin goal. So your career vision might be to be a freelancer, to be working for yourself, to have no boss, to be an entrepreneur. And it might be logical to start your business right now, but you need to assess whether you have all the skills and all the connections. And it might be more strategic and more effective to work for an agency for a certain amount of time in order to gain skills, to develop your portfolio, to gain connections, and then move towards your dream business. The art of setting a linchpin career goal is to identify what is the missing element which will become a stepping stone between where you are and where you want to be. And I'm emphasizing this a lot, and you would think this is a no-brainer, but again, I have encountered so many young people who kind of miss this. They sometimes confuse their linchpin goal for their vision. They want to make a big jump, and they just miss that middle element that will help bridge the gap. Now, there is a big trap when we start setting our career goal, and I call it the limbo. This is when you're not deciding. This is when you want to go in 3 directions or in 2 directions and you cannot choose. A lot of young people, especially those born after the 2000s, just have naturally more interests. They would be doing more than one job at the same time. And for some of them, it's very difficult to make a decision and to decide to cut off all the other options and go in this one direction. In level 3, we're going to talk about your career as a project and how to manage different career directions and different passions. But right now, what I want to say is that if you don't make a choice for one specific goal, you're going to lose confidence, you're going to lose momentum, and you're going to lose a lot of opportunities. So my message here is sometimes it's better to choose, even if it's not the perfect goal, than to look for the perfect goal. And also, if you get into the habit of not making a choice, in that mental habit, you will create a lot of problems for yourself, including mental health ones. So, your challenge in 4 steps. Let's get into it. The first step is to start creating your linchpin goal. So here I suggest that you revisit your ideal career and you revisit the results from your assessment and think about what you need to accomplish, what you need to learn, what you need to change, or what you need to do in order to achieve your ideal career vision. And at this point, we're brainstorming. I highly recommend that you press the pause button and you make a list. This is brainstorming. There are no stupid ideas. There are no impossible ideas. Here, we're not just yet setting the goal. We're brainstorming. Hit the pause button and make a list. Once you're done making the list, remember that decide from Latin, dicere, means to cut off. So once you choose from that list, you need to cut off everything else on that list for now, not forever, just for now. So you have a list. Our next step is to choose just one thing and leave out the rest for now. All right, let me give you some tips on how to choose from that list. Your first criteria to choose the right one that you will be defining as a goal is to limit your options to the ones that really resonate with you. Set a time frame for decision. I suggest that you do it now, like 10 minutes from now. Use the good enough principle. Again, no goal should be perfect. Actually, accomplishing the goal gets you much more added value than not setting a goal. And of course, set clear criteria, aligned with your vision, believable, and strengthen your intuition. When you do the mindfulness practices or the rituals, you will see that sometimes within you, you start feeling which is the direction that you need to go. Okay, so you have a list. You know that you need to make your choice now and leave out the rest. You know that your goal doesn't have to be perfect. You just need a goal to start working on. And now we need to choose your goal. So, is it going to be related to skills or to expertise? Remember when we talked about career assessment that a lot of career goals are mostly related to gaining certain sort of skills or certain sort of expertise in order to get into certain industry or profession. Is it going to be network related? There are scenarios, especially for entrepreneurship, for sales experts, for marketing experts when network and getting the right contacts might be even more important than skills. Is it experience related? Is it that you need to gain certain experience in order to start your own business or in order to go into certain position? So is it related to gaining some experience or something else? As I mentioned earlier in the program, I had a client who wanted to become a pilot. So for him, getting the money for the training was the first step. What is that goal that will take you from where you are to your dream career the fastest? And what is this missing element that will have the greatest impact to move you towards your career vision? How are you going to write your goal? Here is the thing. You already made a list. We discussed the importance of decision making. I gave you some directions in which you can start thinking about your goal. Skills and expertise, network, experience, or resources, or maybe something else. How you formulate your linchpin goal from today to specific time. It doesn't have to be a date, it could be a month. I achieve, learn, get, become, and then a very specific outcome. In your guidebook, you have many examples of well-formulated specific goals, and you have some crappy examples of goals which are very vague. You can also use this to help you with your goal-setting process. And finally, don't forget that we have Kathy, our chatbot, and she will be super helpful here. When you start brainstorming and setting your goal, she can be immensely and incredibly helpful. How do you bulletproof your goal once you've set it? You need to make sure that it's specific. Remember when I started with this discipline example? This is a classic example of a goal that it's abstract. Your goal should be very, very specific. It should be so specific that when you say to another person what your goal is, they should be able to picture it in their mind's eye very, very clearly. When you tell me what your goal is, I should be able to understand it, even if I don't understand anything of that industry. Your goal cheat sheet, does it align with my ideal career vision? Is it specific and measurable? Will achieving this goal create opportunities for growth and advancements towards my dream? Is it realistically achievable with the effort and resources that I have? So if I'm 20 years old and I don't have skills, becoming a manager of 1,000 people, it's not very realistic. But if I'm 20 years old and I'm super passionate, getting an HR internship position, it's very achievable for me. Your next step is to set your career goal. Remember, you have your guidebook, which has this special part at the end, which is your goals. You also have Kathy, the chatbot, that can help you define your career goal. I'm super excited and I cannot wait to hear and see what your goals are. And I'm sure that if you went this far in the program, you're absolutely going to achieve your goal.